warning. I was meant to say, just got hit with major warnings because there's so much that keeps hitting the UK at the moment. And I want to just start with the first one then. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has just downgraded the UK. This is weeks before this budget. And we've got rising unemployment. We've got all sorts of other things going on at the same time. They've also announced that this is the IMF forecast here. In fact, I'll show you the shared screen a moment. They've also just announced the UK is set to suffer the lowest GDP growth per capita among advanced economies in 2026. Here's the United Kingdom here. I mean, you look at the world growth, it's quite low at the moment, but 2.2%. You compare that to the UK growth, 0.5%. United States at 1.8%. I know some of you watch from Canada here, 1.6%. But this is worrying. It's very worrying indeed. But let me talk about the main story today then. And it's crazy when you listen to Reeves and Starmer. When they're sort of answering these questions. It makes no sense at all, no logic. Inflation is expected to remain higher for longer in further blow to her budget. So the growth prospects then have been downgraded by the IMF. This is just weeks before what they call the next tax raid in the budget. They're looking to raise £30 billion from the public. Just so you are aware of this, that's what they've announced. It's 30 billion. So the IMF has trimmed its forecast for UK growth again. It says it's very concerned with what they are hearing about this upcoming budget. But a lot of this was also offset because of the tariffs with the United States. In a further blow, it also warned that prices in Britain were rising even faster than in developing economies. It gave examples like Peru and Senegal and some African nations, said that prices in the UK are rising even higher here. They say higher taxes, rising household bills are keeping inflation higher for longer, and they expect this to continue to be persistent. So yeah, they're going to see the UK is going to see the highest level of inflation in the G7 over the next 2 years. And we've got a chart. They've just put out a forecast here as well. So you can see this is the growth downgrade. So this is what they plotted previously in July. This was the US, by the way. They've actually upgraded, if you're watching from the US. The US has been upgraded from 2% here to just above. But you look at everywhere else, Canada, big drop. UK, a drop. France, Germany and Italy are the same. Japan had an upgrade very slightly. But this is not good news for the UK. We've got a lot more to go over here. Higher inflation means that your GDP, this is gross domestic product per person, is now looking at about 0.5%. So it's the weakest in the G7. UK and the US were singled out on the report because the US has performed better than expected and the UK is going to perform worse than expected. They also said that if you are a worker, your wages only rose by £1.50 since last year. So they said that what Reeves has been saying is not accurate. What Starmer's been saying is not accurate, that your wages have been going up have been going up a lot. Well, actually, when they have calculated it, they said with all the inflation, with all the new taxes, actually it's gone up by just £1.50 since last September. They also said that the UK is going to have large increases in inflation compared to their previous forecast, and they put out this chart here. So this is the forecast for the UK, massive compared to a lot of other countries around the world, one of the highest in inflation. And again, they are saying this is due to all of these tax rises. It's also expected to remain higher even than rates seen in developing economies. They say Morocco, Ivory Coast, and they got all the they said, and you're going to be more prone for UK citizens to energy shocks. So they said this is a big one, and they've just raised the cap. Basically, the IMF said that the UK is about to get absolutely hammered coming up in November. And that's why we'll talk about in a moment how people now have stopped spending. They've actually starting to cut back. It says working people feel it every day. Experts talk about. Okay, here we go. This was the bit I've highlighted from Rachel Reeves. So she was asked to respond to what's actually taken place. So higher inflation, lower growth, wages are about to fall, taxes are rising. She was asked to respond, and she said, and I quote. In fact, I've got to show you this on screen. You won't believe it. She said, "This is the second consecutive upgrade." No, it's a downgrade, Reeves. Are you feeling okay? To this year's growth forecast from the IMF. But no, this is just the start. For too many people, our economy feels stuck. Working people feel it every day. Experts talk about it, and I am going to deal with it. That is, I didn't make that up. That is absolutely legit. She did actually respond with that. If you can even believe that she responded with that. So they downgraded everything, and she put out a statement saying she was very happy with this upgrade. I get more worried every single day at the moment. I really do. They're expecting up to £30 billion of tax rises in this budget. Economists say that this is going to decimate, they use the word decimate, the United Kingdom. The UK already spends more than £100 billion a year on debt interest, which is now twice the size of the defence budget. It's one of the worst offenders. The IMF and a number of banks have said that they are going to, that they expect investors to start pulling out of the UK and shunning the bonds because of the borrowing now getting out of control. So they're very, very concerned about the UK. And I'm just giving you the IMF report. There's the OECD. There's a lot more reports. There's all these warnings now. They are actually warning people about the United Kingdom. Okay, we had another one that came out. This came out the other day, but we'll talk about it quickly. More than half of entrepreneurs are considering moving to a new country now. It's another big one that's come out. More than half. It was actually 57%. So I went over the report. This was a survey done by HSBC. Tax savings were one of the least cited reasons, though. So you would have thought it was tax. No, actually, the report states. Here we go. Tax only ranked 8th. The number one was safety. And we can relate. You know, I've just been, how can I put this? I've been in a certain city today. I've just finished filming the city. I'll put it together for you. And it's now one of the most dangerous cities. It's gone from here to here. One of the most dangerous cities now in Europe. And it's happened fast. I was there today and I was shocked. Believe me, my doors were locked driving around. Let me just put it that way. Some of the things that happened, maybe I'll put it in the video. Some of the things that took place, including the guy wanting to fight me for filming him. And I mean, taking his shirt off and everything, just crazy. Just, I don't want to go off track, but it was just crazy, the stuff, you know, that I saw today. It was just insane. But this is what is happening. People are losing it. People are just losing their minds. And I don't even blame the people, honestly, even though I'm making a joke about that guy and, you know, wanting to fight. And all. I don't even blame, because my wife said, what are you going to do? Are you going to, and I was like, look, these people are so stressed out now. They're so angry. They're turning to drugs and alcohol, and they don't know what to do. You know, they're completely fed up. Just lost that camera there. I'm not even sure. That's funny, isn't it? Whenever I start talking about certain things, all of a sudden we lose a camera or something. So luckily I've got a backup camera there. Where was I even going with that? Yeah, people are fed up. People are just losing it. They're fed up with all of this. And I don't know what to say on it. I just feel terrible for people. I don't even blame these people, some of them who get angry that I'm filming or, you know, doing all the crazy stuff. I just think this is what's happening. It's the decay of the society that we are seeing. And it doesn't actually have to be this way. There is more than enough money to go around, but the government doesn't know how to manage everything. They don't know how to manage anything, actually. They just don't know what they are doing. So another one, this is, again, another report just came out. Almost impossible for Brits to work their way to being rich, says this report. I went through the report. It says 52 years worth of earnings, £1.3 million to move from basically to move from the middle to being considered rich. It's impossible for most people. They'll never actually achieve it. There is options. There's always options, and I've mentioned this many times before. You don't need to take my courses, but there's free things that you can study out there. There really is. I highly recommend, if you are struggling right now, that you start looking into free options. Okay, so there's lots of things you can do. Maybe it's how do you reduce your tax burden? How do you make some side income? Things like that. How do you make side hustle? Can you change your jobs? Can you do some sort of training to get a promotion? All this stuff is going to be important as we move forward. If you saw yesterday's video, it started now. The cracks have started in the shadow banking sector. It's the same pattern that's happened a lot of times before. So these patterns have started now. So you've got to be aware of this. One I told you about, was it a few days ago now, last week? I mentioned the rapid cash flow program that I put together. Have a look at that. I know it's usually really expensive because it's 3 courses in one, but that is a really good starting point for most people. People ask me, where can I get started? Start looking at, again, it doesn't have to be my program, but start looking at how you can generate some additional income. Is there anything to cut back on? Are you wasting money on things like, your Netflix, which is there's a big campaign to cancel Netflix at the minute. Some people are spending all their time in leisure and entertainment when they haven't yet got their money sorted out. They haven't got the things that they need. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy, they haven't got the basic stuff sorted out. But they're very focused on leisure and entertainment. There's a lot you can do, is what I'm saying, not to criticize, because I think people are overwhelmed with everything going on. Okay, it's been a while since I've actually mentioned this one, but this is the rapid cash flow builder that I built. And I know it's usually very expensive program, but you look at, since I first created this, and I talked about the jobs that would be taken, these jobs are already going. This was a crazy forecast, people said. These jobs, you look at these, data entry, bank clerks, these are already going. Checkout workers, they are going very, very quickly because they're being taken by artificial intelligence. I won a lot of entrepreneurial and business awards. There's my wife there. We've won all sorts of awards doing this stuff. And you remember, I started with nothing, absolutely zero. I built this channel from 0 to over 400,000 just in the first years. I renovated a castle, all the stuff. This is the program. There's an entrepreneur flow system, teaches you how to build a business in this modern day, because how people have built business is not going to work. It teaches you ideas flow. I could go on and on and on with it. Just look through all the testimonials if you want to see for yourself. There's loads of these testimonials. They go on and on and on forever. But yeah, have a look at it. 30 days money back guarantee, or I'll swap you onto another course. It's all secure payments, etc. Have a look. It's in the description below anyway. But yeah, that is what I would say. People are. It's such a difficult time. It really is. We just had another report came out on unemployment as well. Let's open this one up. Sorry, I know the cameras. Let me just turn the camera off there. But this was another one. Unemployment rises as concerns grow for the UK jobs market. They've just talked about this. Unemployment rose to 4.8%, while the inactivity rate was 21%. Now, inactivity rate is different from the unemployment rate. Unemployment rate is about 5%, but actually it's more like 10% because of the way they calculate it. But the 21% inactivity rate, that really tells you who's working, who's not working in the UK. And I don't even believe it. I think it's closer to 30%, the inactivity rate. And that really tells you what is going on. And I said this to my wife today. Hopefully this won't offend anybody, but I'll tell you what I said to my wife today. We were sat in the car park And there was these guys, and they were just your typical British hard-working guys. They were, manual labourers in their yellow stuff. They were digging a trench, and it was bloody hard work. I was watching them because I was just thinking to myself, these guys are really grafting. And on the bench sat next to them was some people who were just sat there smoking and eating at McDonald's or whatever it was, eating, smoking. And they were obviously not working. There was a big group of them. It was like 5 of these guys. And I can't even tell you which country they'd come in from or whatever, but they were just sat there. You could see they were just sat there. And I said to my wife, those guys grafting really hard there are paying for those guys there. And she looked at me and just was like, yeah, actually, that is a good sort of description of what we are seeing right now. And that's, let me know in the chat what you think anyway. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. But yeah, even the vacancies has fallen 9,000. This is the 39th month in a row of job declines. Office National Statistics as well said another 10,000 jobs are about to go. So honestly, you've got to do something here as well. I'll show you the chart that the ONS just put out. This, obviously, you have to ignore this spike because that was the lockdowns. They locked everything down. But this has been unemployment ever since. It's been climbing. So it's just been going non-stop. So they have to ignore this because that was, it was lockdown period. Another one then, UK consumer spending slows. It's just slowed down. Let me show you this one. UK consumer spending slows ahead of her budget, retailers say. Another one we've just had out today then. British consumer spending grew by the least in 4 months here. Rising inflation, this is from the BRC chief exec, said rising inflation, budget is weighing on the minds of many households planning the Christmas spending. Also, the hiring is looking to be very poor for this Christmas because firms don't know what's going to be happening. Spending has fallen by 2.6% on essential items, and even spending has fallen on non-essential items as well. Mortgage rates have just gone up as well. Rachel Reeves is trying to put pressure on business chiefs, saying that they have to talk up the economy. Blackstone has just sold £1.3 billion worth of UK assets. This is the one we talked about just yesterday. Blackstone, I think, is about to be hit quite hard. A lot of these, actually, I think are going to be hit quite hard very shortly with the shadow banking sector. So sorry about the sort of glitches today with the cameras here. Sometimes this just happens when I'm traveling, but hopefully you kind of got a lot out of the video and you understood the concept here. And I'll drop the link below in the description for the rapid cash flow program. Again, I'll just knock 90% off the price for those of you who actually need it and want to start a business or just start a side hustle. It's very quick to do it, very simple once you understand. Check it out. All right, take care, God bless, see you on the next one.